Hello, welcome to the MR Running Pains podcast. I'm Aaron Saft, and I appreciate you listening, watching, being a part of this. So this episode, I thought I'd go through packing your vest. I've got a few different vests here to go through. I don't have any affiliation with any of these companies. These are just ones that I've used time and time again. So I'm just going to go through how to pack them, make sure they're fitting well, they're functioning correctly for you. They're going to serve you well out there. My most versatile pack that I've used the most, and I just noticed probably needs a little stitch work, is my Salomon Advanced Skin 12. Okay, and hanging here behind me, the red one here. This is super old Advanced Skin 5. Now, the numbers 5 and 12 represent the liters or the capacity that your vest is going to be able to carry. So when you are investing in a pack, you have to think about how much gear do you need to carry. Think about is there a mandatory kit? Are you doing something like UTMB, Western States, Hard Rock? What are the things that you possibly are going to have to carry? Okay. The 5 is very versatile. You can fit a lot in this pack. I've used it for multiple 100 milers. When I stepped up to something like UTMB or Hard Rock, which, could potentially require me carrying a lot more gear, I used the 12. And even still, something like Western States, where I don't have to carry as much gear. I could go down to something like the Ultra Aspire Bronco vest. This is a pretty versatile vest, and talk about the uses of each and potentially the drawbacks of each as well. So again, think about the volume or how much capacity you need to carry your gear. That be, do you have to carry pants and jacket and gloves and hat, medical kit, all of this stuff. Really, there's only so much you could fit into the 5 liter without it busting at the seams. Okay. The 12 is a little bit more versatile, obviously, because you can carry a lot more in it. You can still get a bladder into the 5. That's the great thing. You can still carry. I've carried up to a 2-liter bladder in the 5, and you could potentially carry more if you wanted to. But as I said, the 12 has a lot more storage and capabilities based on the design, where the bungee cords are. So there's a lot more that you can add on to the 12. So a lot more versatile, unless you're racing shorter distances, in which case the 5 may be totally fine for you. But for this video's intents and purposes, I'm going to talk about the 12, since that's what I use and I'm most comfortable with for most of my races. Now, some things to think about right off the bat. If you're using poles, a lot of packs come with some capacity to store your poles on the pack. The 12 has a bungee cord system. There is bungees at the top and the bottom of the pack. And that's to kind of diagonally across the back. So, going across this way, that will store the poles with those bungees in place. It will just hold it against the back of the pack. Salomon also, and multiple companies are starting to make them now, they also have quivers. So you can carry your pole in the quiver, and this attaches to the back of the pack. It's an accessory made to go with your pack here. Okay, so if you're thinking about carrying your poles, maybe try the pack first, see how it carries the poles, how comfortable you are with that, how comfortable you are getting them onto your pack and off of your pack. And if it's, you don't feel as comfortable with that system, look into buying an accessory that could potentially carry the poles for you. Okay. So consider your poles and how you're going to store them. Some great options out there are, they have belts now, even shorts now, with loops that you can store your poles on. So those are options as well. So just consider them all when you're trying your or thinking about buying your vest. When we talk about fit of a vest, so if I slide this on, my biggest thing is bounce. Okay, I don't like my pack to bounce much. If I'm wearing a bladder that carries a lot of fluid, that's a lot of extra weight, and I really don't want my vest to bounce much. So I want it to feel snug, secure. It shouldn't be any room under the shoulders here. It should be nice and secure. Should be able to tighten it around the midsection. That should be nice and tight. The collar shouldn't come up too high on the neck, so you're not getting any rub here or any rub under the arm right here. Okay, those are all potential chafe spots where you can get really sensitive if the pack comes up too high on the armpit, or if the collar of the back of the pack comes up too high as well. That will rub the back of the neck and get super annoying, as well as right through here on the sides of the neck where the collarbone is. Make sure it's not going to rub. So these are all potential spots, especially those that run shirtless or with tank tops or sports bras. Consider what the material on the inside is made of. How abrasive is this material? So all of these are rubbing points, right? So we don't want to chafe. I mean, you're going to be applying a lot of lube or trying to tape or something if you start noticing. So considering all of that is some vital things to think of. But making sure that it can secure. You can see on mine, I've got this bungee cord on the front. I can tighten it up and secure it so that it doesn't bounce much. Okay. I've also got adjustments on the side. You can see the adjustment right here. So I can adjust around the midsection here. So there's actually both sides have one. So I can secure it lower as well, so it doesn't ride up or bounce much. So a lot of different adjustments. That's great in a vest, is having the potential to adjust, because when you load the pack, right, you may need to loosen this because of how much volume you're taking up in your storage capacity. So if I loosen this, you can start to see it spread. So I can get this looser, right? And then that will allow me to have more gear. And then as the pack kind of shrinks, okay, as I start to use things, as I drink fluids, as I drink and eat and consume my calories, then I can start to, again, cinch things down to get it tighter so it's not bouncing as much. So consider all of the adjustability features of your pack. The other thing that I like is I do love the elasticity. You can see the elasticity of my sternum straps. Okay, the going across the chest, I don't like restriction. There are a number of packs that have just a cord that goes across that has no elasticity to it. And that I just don't feel like I can expand. Like when I'm having a hard time breathing, especially when I'm climbing, I don't want to feel restricted across my chest. So I love when companies make it very elastic. Salomon has a great setup. The Ultra Aspire, they do a very similar bungee system as well. So they've got bungees on theirs. They have a whole term for what they call their system. It's like the Max O2. The Max O2 is what they call it on Ultra Aspire. But the capacity for it to bend, excuse me, and stretch, that's like such a key function for me. I love the ability to just be able to breathe and not feel restricted. So consider that as well. Okay. So just to review, make sure you got a good snug fit on the shoulders, but it's not rubbing. Okay. It's nice and good space, across the back here, away from the neck, so it's not rubbing. The pack sits nice. You don't want it riding too high. Okay. If you have to cinch it too much across here, like in other words, if you're cinching like this, the pack is too big. Okay. You want it to have a little bit of space in the front. If it's riding too high, it may be too small. So things to consider in your fit. Hopefully you can try on a pack or try on a friend's pack to see, how does it feel? How does the sizing feel? Read the reviews, read the reviews about what are other people saying about this pack, and as always, as I talk about with footwear reviews, make sure that when you read these, this person is comparable to you. be it in gender, be it in size. Okay. That's, those are things to consider. Women, please read other reviews from women to make sure that, this pack is great for your needs, as well as, size, right? So like if you're a taller guy, the packs fit totally different, right? So like it may come up higher. I remember my Ultra Aspire Revolt pack, they had to come out with the tall because they had a bottle pouch like right, here. And so you had to try to grab the bottle from right here. And on the shorter, the normal pack, it rode way up here. So it was really hard to get. So I got the tall one so that it was longer so that I could grab. So, things to consider when you're looking at your pack. All right. So read those reviews. Those are super, super vital to learn from. Then think about your storage needs, right? So I've got a bunch of stuff here laid out that I'm going to kind of stuff in this pack. Some of it is just nutrition. Some of it's safety gear. Some of it may be mandatory gear, but you can get an idea for, what I do and why I do it. So the first thing, this usually goes with me on every run, is be it my phone, and I always carry it in the same pocket, so I know exactly where it is and I can get it easily. And it's this zipper pocket right here. So whatever pack you have a phone pocket, know exactly where it is at all times so you can get to it easily. Okay. When I go on my longer runs, I carry the Garmin InReach Mini 2. This is my safety feature. Obviously it's not on right now, but I turn it on so my wife can see where I'm at. She can go online and follow along, make sure I'm okay. If I have any problems and I don't have cell phone service, I can get a message out. So Garmin InReach Mini 2, I usually store it in this pocket right here, just like it was kind of like a satellite tracker. A lot of times if you're wearing your spot tracker, it's up on this shoulder. Same kind of thing here. I try to have a pocket or something that I can attach right to here. Okay, so up on the shoulder, good reception. Okay, so those are my two safety items. Now, along with that, a lot of times in races, you're going to have to carry, especially longer races, some kind of electronics. Okay, so I usually have an electronics bag. And depending on what time of day it is how accessible I make certain things. Okay. And here what I have, and I'll just kind of take it out to show you. This is my backup lamp. Okay. So this is the NU25 that I've done a lot of talking about. I've had guests talk about it, but just a little backup headlight, super lightweight. I've got the Goal Zero. I think it's called the Flip 12. Oh, this is the Flip 24. I have a smaller one, the Flip 12. It's half the size of this one. So picture this cut in half, kind of like a lipstick container. This has obviously my phone cord on it already attached. But if I need to charge my phone, I have that capacity. If I need to charge my watch, headlamp, whatever. I also bring the cord for my headlamp batteries, so that I can be charging those. If I'm in a super long race, I'll also bring my watch cord, but usually, my watch lasts plenty long enough. Thank you, Coros. And as well as a backup battery for my headlamp. So my headlamp that I go to, this is the Swift RL by Petzl. I really like this. I love the fit, the feel, the function. It's got a lot of, go up to 900 lumens. I don't use it in the brightest mode most often because I have my belt that I wear as well. But I bring a backup battery for the Swift. Now, again, if I'm going and I know that I'm leaving an aid station and I need my headlamp, I'm going to make this accessible. So I usually put this, if I need it accessible, I put it in the other zipper pocket. So across from my phone, that way it's readily accessible. I know right where it is. I can grab it. Okay. And the rest of my electronics, I usually carry a few different bags just to keep things dry. I'm kind of a organized freak in that way. That way things don't get shuffled around and jumbled in my bag. I can just pull out a bag and I know exactly what's in there and where it's at. So yeah, this one I usually store in my back. So I'm going to take this off for a moment. And then there's a zipper pocket on the back here. And I store it in there. Now, along with that, I store my rain jacket, my rain shell. Okay, my rain shell usually goes in there. And if it's forecasted for rain, or I know I'm going to be super sweaty, I usually put this in a bag as well. I may put it in like a gallon Ziploc bag and just kind of suck all the air out and stick it in here as well, just so I know my jacket's dry when I need it or when I want it. So that usually goes in a Ziploc bag as well. I also store back there. This is my emergency blanket. Some races require a bivy, whatever. I stick that in that back pocket as well. So that's all going in the back. So got the batteries and the electronics, rain jacket, as well as safety blanket. Those are all going in the back. Okay. Last thing that, well, depending, extra fluids. This is, extra, obviously it's tailwind. So if I'm, going between aid stations and they're not stocking what I'm drinking, I usually carry an extra one in case, I'm not going to see my crew and I need to refill my fluids. I've got those. So those are going back there as well. And that's why I like the 12, because I can stuff a ton of crap in here. It's awesome. Okay. And then last safety feature, this goes with me on all my long runs. I usually have it in my pack just in case. Sometimes I fill it, sometimes I don't. Just depends on where I'm going, how much water there is. But this is the Salomon XA. It's their filter. Okay, you can see this one's brand new, still got the wrapper on it. So this isn't the one I usually use, but this is my backup. But this will go in my pack no matter what. I bring that with me on all my long runs. So my Garmin, my phone, and that are usually with me on all my long runs as precautionary. Okay. Now, other things for the back, obviously, if you're carrying your bladder, okay, bladder is going to go into the most the pouch that's closest to your back. So that's when I usually, if I'm on a long run, I'll use a bladder. A lot of races I go with bottles depending on how long it is in between aid stations and how long it's going to take. I may carry an extra bottle in the back there. But if I'm doing bottles, obviously with this setup, I like a little bit better because it gives me a little bit better weight distribution. I get a little bit more weight up here versus everything that I've put in back there. Whereas if I throw my bladder in there, it's kind of pulling me back a little bit. So just be careful. The weight balance, in your pack is very, very important. You don't want it to be changing your form too much. In other words, we don't want it to be pulling us back, nor do we want it to, pull us forward. So we want to find that balance where you feel comfortable in your normal position rather than it creating you to lean back or lean forward. Okay. That's, I would say, also something to consider is what is the capacity of the vest. Some vests aren't great at carrying bladders. Okay, so if you're a person that likes to have that capacity, make sure that you take that into consideration when you're buying your pack. Okay. So next thing that I store, I'm just gonna clip me back up real quick. Okay. Food. Oh man, there's a lot of food that I like to have a diversity of calories. Okay. So one side of my pack, there's these nice drop-in pouches here on either side. I like to have my fructose based. This is Spring. This is one of the ones, the awesome sauce. This one is one of my staples. So I like to have the fructose based gels on one side. And then I take and I put my glucose based gels. These are GU Roctanes. I put them on the other side. Then I've got my chews. Okay. These are Scratch. They're glucose based, so I put those as well with my glucose based gels. Okay. So those are my main calories. Okay. So I know exactly where my main calories are. They're super easy accessible. My pockets on my shorts, that's where I carry my trash. So when I get into an aid station, I know to dump my pockets. When I get home from my run, I take out my trash. I look at, okay, how many calories did I consume? Make a note in my log. I consumed, at 35 minutes, I had 180 calories. At hour 10, I had 100 calories. Just whatever it was, I kind of go through it. Right, as soon as I dump out my pockets, so it's fresh in my mind. And then I talk about, I'll pull out my bottles or my bladder, see how much I drank, and how many calories were in there, all that. That's all done when I'm done with my run. So, but when you get to your aid station, good to dump out your trash. Like I said, I just stick them in my shorts pocket, and then I can just hand it to the volunteers or my crew, and done with it. All right. Lastly, I have these are my bonk savers. Literally a bonk bar. I love bonk bars. And then the power bar chews here. So the power gels. These things are like gushers. My favorite is the cola. It does have caffeine, but these are a lifesaver. 210 calories in this packet right here. And then, forget bonk breaker. There's 260 calories. So it's either one of these, or if it's not too hot, I'll carry a Snickers bar. The combination of the two of them together, over 400 calories, closer to 500 calories actually. And this is like a bonk saver. So if I'm ever in that energy depletion where I'm like, oh my gosh, I am bonking, this is my go-to, right? So this, again, wherever you're comfortable storing it, I typically store it over here. If I don't have my headlamp, even if I do, it goes in there. So I've got my headlamp and my bonk saving energy calories in there. In this envelope pocket, the drop-in pocket, that's my glucose. And then in this pocket is my fructose. I like kind of just going back and forth between the two. So I may start with a fructose. Next one would be a glucose. Okay. So you can read all about the science of fructose and glucose and how your body digests it and such, but I like to mix the two. I find that I get a nice kind of even ride because again, mixing the sugars, the science behind it is that they're two different sugars. So while you have a fructose, you're digesting it. If you add a glucose on top of it, you'll digest both because they're separate sugars. The body recognizes them as separate sugars. Whereas if you took a glucose and then another glucose, your body's still processing this glucose before it can get to this glucose. So, the idea being, if I have two different ones, then my body's processing both at the same time. So I'm kind of getting this constant energy source. That's the idea behind it. Okay, so that's where I store my food. All right. Let's see. We talked about the bladder. We talked about the bottles. Talked about weight distribution, nutrition. So other things. If you have mandatory kits, right? A lot of times they don't check. But what happened at UTMB and why I became so obsessive with where I put my stuff is because at UTMB, the volunteers actually asked me to pull out certain items. And I like in my tiredness, it started at 6 p.m. and the volunteers asked me at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., where is they pointed to pictures on a table and I had to pull them out and show them. And I couldn't tell you where they were. I honestly couldn't. So I started making a system. And that's why I have spots for everything. I know where everything is. I can grab it, right? So I'm very comfortable with my pack and knowing where my stuff is because I put it there every training run. So every time I go out for a training run, a long run, whatever it be, everything goes in the same spots. That way I'm practiced at pulling out my phone. I'm practiced at pulling out my glucose, right? So I know where everything is. So, you may carry other things. It's just knowing where to put them. Where do you need them? Should they be readily accessible, right? I know that I don't need, I won't need, my battery most likely. And if I do, I can just take off my pack and kind of, set it up. So that's why I put that stuff in the back. Again, I won't need to be probably doing my tailwind out on the course. I'd probably would do that at an aid station. So that goes in the back. Jacket, I have to take off my pack anyway. So, These are the reasons why I'm thinking through where things are. So do that process. Try to plan out where's things going to go. Where are they most useful to you? Okay. And again, where is the best weight distribution? Where does it feel most even? Don't feel too weighted one way or the other. Feel comfortable. Okay. Make sure it's not rubbing when your arms are swinging. You're not getting too much bulk on one side. This is starting to bulk up a little bit. But it's still comfortable. Make sure you're not getting too much weight, on either side either. Okay. It's not just front to back, it's side to side. Make sure that one side is not heavier than the other. So take all of these things into consideration. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about my thought process behind the Bronco. This vest is wonderful. This vest is, I love, like I said, I've used this time and time again. Love this vest, but it can get hot. Okay. Some people cut away specific parts to make it a little bit more breathable. Okay. They kind of, if there's something that's not needed, it's extra padding or something that, potentially is not needed. They may cut it away, make a modification to the vest. So in this vest, I'll show you, I had to make a modification, and it wasn't necessarily because of how hot, or extra material. Well, in some ways, I guess it was extra material. If I turn around, you can see that red flap right here. Okay. That right there stuck up much higher. And when I put my neck back, it kind of hit the back of my neck, which, as I talked about on the other pack, can get super annoying, right? So if you're kind of leaning back and that's nicking you in the back of the head, it's just not cool. So what I had mom do, mom's a great seamstress. She, you can see the stitching. She stitched the flap down. I had her fold it over and then stitch it down so that wasn't popping up. Now, my understanding is it was just easier to slide the hand in and grab an extra bottle. Good thought process. Like, I understand the need and want to make it more accessible in the back so you can reach in. You have kind of a guide, right, to reach your hand in. But like I said, it was just really annoying me. So it's not to say that just because a pack comes the way it does, that, if it's not right, you can't modify it or fix it to make it, if you really like the pack. Like, I love the potential behind this because of how breathable, like when you look at how breathable this mesh is, that's what I'm looking for at something like Western States, because what I can do, and my thought is, the Ultra Aspire comes with the more like plastic, harder plastic flasks. I can freeze a flask. And so when the temperature heats up, I can put that against my back and cool my back, and then have 2 water bottles up front. As this melts, I can switch that out if one of these run out, and then I can drink off of that. So just planning ahead for Western States and the heat. Same thing at Vermont. There's most of these races, I'm not going to need such capacity because of how frequent I see the crew, and how short a race duration it is. Whereas something like Wasatch, I'm going to be out there, potentially a lot longer. So, something like the Salomon will probably be more up my alley. I know not everybody has the funds to get 2 packs. I understand that. So in that regard, pick the one that's going to serve you the best, right? I'd probably go and be safe with the more volume, because, you don't want to be stuck with something minimal and you just can't fit your gear in there, and makes it uncomfortable because you can't get what you need into your pack. So I would always go up in volume rather than sacrifice minimalism. I learned my lesson in Old Dominion. When I raced Old Dominion, it was hot. I tried using that Revolt pack that I talked about. It only had capacity for 2 bottles. It was just way too hot. I was going through my fluids way too fast, and I wasn't getting enough fluids. I started getting dehydrated. I was losing a lot of weight. So, my suggestion, make sure you have the capacity to carry more. Now with this pack, I have the capacity to carry 2 of the bottles up front and potentially 2 more bottles in the back. So I can get up to 4 bottles in this pack. So this one has a lot of fluid carrying capacity. It also has a lot of storage capacity. There are drop-in pockets on the sides, all the way around the waist here, as well as drop-in pockets just below the bottle holders. So lots of storage capacity in this. So, I thought about that in using this. Now I can't carry a lot of mandatory gear in here if I'm carrying all those items. So that's where this has its limitations. So, again, when I look at races that I potentially am going to need some gear, this would probably not be the best option. I'm doing a 50-mile race coming up here April 1st, and this will probably be a great option for that. For shorter races and those 100-milers in which gear is not, so much of a necessity, like, a good option. But again, if you can swing only one vest, go with the higher capacity vest. Okay. And that may be something like I pointed out earlier, the Salomon Advanced Skin 5. That's a great option. The 12, as I said, you just can't beat the capacity on the 12. It's got such great carrying capacity. So those are my thoughts on packs, on fit, function, storage. Okay. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I hope that helps. I hope that gets you thinking about things and planning how to pack your vest. Really hope you enjoyed the episode. And until next time, keep running, my friends.